Well, thanks everybody for being here today. We're excited to get to level 4 of customer experience. Who can tell me what the first 3 levels are, just to see how well we're paying attention? Yes, sorry.
Receipt, confirmation.
No.
We're talking about our customer.
Yeah, level 1.
Oh.
Level 1 of our customer
That's good
experience.
I was gonna say, I have to know.
Very basic. We want to provide an excellent what? Product or service. Excellent product. Okay? The second one is excellent what? Has to be what? An excellent value. Right? And then we have to have excellent what? This is where you were going. Order and fulfillment.
The order.
Okay, and then that brings us to the 4th. So I'm glad everybody's getting all of this.
I was looking at the wrong note.
Okay, the next level that we're going to talk about today is it has to be excellent customer service. So, or when we talk about customer support, after they get excellent value, they've got an excellent product that's an excellent value, and they had excellent order fulfillment, they need to know that they've got our support as a company, especially if something goes wrong. So when you guys think of customer support, what do you think about? What comes to mind? There's a chair here and a chair here, Justin.
Troubleshooting.
Oh, wait, you know what? Let's review. Thank you, Rhonda. We want to review last week's assignment as promised. You guys were going to discuss with your teams how you're doing on the order and fulfillment process. Okay, so receiving, confirming, processing, delivering, and completing requests. So who'd be willing to shoot up a hand and volunteer how the sessions went, how they're doing, and what they think they can do to improve?
Since I messed up on the first one.
Sure.
So we'll answer the other half. Is that okay? Yeah. So for like receipt, we already had an automated. We already had like an automated way to tell our customers that we received the orders, but we've been even further updating that, like letting them know we received it and it will be processed tomorrow, or we need a credit card. So we've been making sure that we're extra attention to the details of an order. And internally, as far as receipt goes, we just simple emails like thank you when we get a freight or got it when we get a procurement email or response, or going into talk to customers and just making sure everyone knows that we received the information they're sending us. Confirmation, we sent the confirmation email, but we have been making sure we check our junk email really well since the last Lunch and Learn, because that's something that we don't always confirm, but we check because things come up there. We also have started doing, like when we had the shortage in drums, our confirmations had to include the fact that we were like, we're a little bit short on stuff, but we'll go check our inventory and make sure we can get this order out today or tomorrow. We follow up with the customer 2 and 3 times because of that, so confirmation was important in that regard. Okay. And then Nathan and us have been sending emails following up on open sales orders. Like, so that's internal, where we can, and then we can confirm whether something's been shipped or not, because sometimes once we pass it through to shipping or the warehouse, we can just forget about it. So this keeps us confirming with one another the status of an order internally.
Okay, great. All right. Well, Vernon, you started to say something?
You said, I think they said Dakota was.
I do have another question. So I kind of took the last order, the processing, the delivery, the completion. So for processing, our first thing is, we go into the customer's account. First thing when they call us, we ask, what's your customer name, what's your company name, customer account, what they have it great. And we start looking at their statistics, make sure they don't have any balances out that would stop the order from going, look at their history, everything like that. And then internally, if there is an issue with the customer, we email Sherry Dooley immediately and say, oh, this customer's credit is exceeded by this much, or they have a balance out, or they're on credit hold, how should we proceed? So that everybody internally is on the same page so that we know if there's a problem.
Okay, great. Mark?
I take orders from certain customers.
I take orders from my wife, mainly.
Yeah. It's the same thing.
Frank has the same thought.
She's one of my customers as well. When I take an order, and I know I'm going to be forwarding it to customer care, I try to make sure that I include all the details that I can. I double check the shipping address. I double check the billing address to make sure it's current.
Okay.
I make sure I have the pricing, the quantity, the time it's, the drop dead date by when it's needed. And I usually include a request for customer care who does this. They, let the customer know when it's going to ship, what the ETA is, who's the carrier, what's the pro number, all those things. Because, and the customers that I deal with, they really appreciate it because I copy them on that email.
Great.
And they have told me they really appreciate the immediate confirmation and the level of detail. So,
Awesome. Thank you. Luis.
On international
Sorry.
managing directors, we identified 2 points that we can improve to improve our customer experience. One is have a more clear pricing, and we are currently working on, and also have better and also clear information on our solution, a complete solution, as we're being used to just the actual formula, retro plate. So now we have the solution. So how we can, maybe we have some ideas on getting some brochures, things like that we may already have. So, but looking to implement that international.
On the ordering process.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, Vern.
Yeah, as I was thinking about this, I think internally we do a great job, and we're getting better all the time at it with confirmation and whatnot, just getting the request and delivery. All of that's getting much better. So I started thinking outside, our external, like our reps, sometimes our distributors. And I've always, in the past, when I've thought about them taking orders, following up with orders, I've thought 2 things. One is they're on the road so much and they're not as organized. And if they were taking the orders and then they forgot about it, didn't get it, or missed something, some important information, we could end up, the value of our product goes down because it didn't get there in time, or it went to the wrong place, or it didn't have whatever it needed with it. And so I've always kind of hesitated on pushing too hard on the reps taking those orders. I've also thought, well, if I had to choose between the rep taking an hour to take an order or an hour to go call on an architect or a general contractor or something, I'd much rather they be doing that. But then as I thought more and more about it, I realized, except our best reps, for the most part, not every single case, but really the reps that excel and focus mostly on our products are the ones who are doing this.
Yeah.
So maybe I've been giving the reps a bit of a pass in this department because, well, I'd rather, and it's true, if you only have an hour in that day, instead of taking an order that I can take or other people can take, I would rather they go out and sell our product. But those that are really excellent are doing all of those things.
No, that's good.
So it's just a thought to consider with our reps and what we ask them to do.
The thought that comes to mind there is they can also spend that hour ensuring that we actually got the order. Because when they leave and say, oh, yeah, call Curecrete, they might, I'll do it tomorrow, and then they decide, let me look into this other product and see. And so it's nice to get the order when you're right there and close the sale, right? True.
They might start out with only an hour available, but as momentum builds, they'll build more than an hour of their day into our time.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Okay, great comment. Thank you for that. Did you have something, Tom?
Yeah. In our department, a lot of ours is internal communication with everybody else. And so what we talked about is a lot of ours is face-to-face communication. When we get an order, it's customer care bringing the order into us. And we have a little conversation about it. This is when it needs to go. This is when it needs to this. And so, and I think we do a good job of that. But most of our dealings is with everybody else in this room,
right,
not outside. And so it's, we talk about, you're talking about reps and you're talking about customers, and so every one of you is our customer as we're trying to get the product out the door.
Did you guys have any thoughts on what we could improve on?
We talked about emailing, and we talked about, and a lot of it is, we talked about, okay, well, when we receive the order, how do we give a confirmation? Well, it's usually from your hand to mine, okay. But we also went into, well, if we get into the order and we go, well, we're not going to have this product, or when do you want this shipped? There is a lot of speaking back and forth between us and customer care of, hey, this is where this order is. This is when we're planning on shipping it. Can we take it out of this warehouse? Can we take it out of that warehouse? Can we? So it's surprisingly a lot of back and forth communication between us and customer care to ensure that product gets to the customer when they want it.
Okay, good. So a lot more collaboration, maybe a little. Okay, good. All right. Thank you for the comment. So, I think we've all just demonstrated here that, you know, customer service or caring for the customer isn't just a department. I mean, we have a customer care department, and we can think, well, yeah, they deal with our customers, but dealing with our customers should be the whole company. That should be our focus, right? So here's what the CEO of Zappos said: we believe that customer service shouldn't be just a department, it should be the entire company. So that's just a good reminder as we go through this today. So when we talk about giving customer support, what do you think of when we say support?
Troubleshooting.
Okay, troubleshooting? Help them figure out what went wrong? Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Helping their business to grow and to be successful.
Okay. All right.
Not nitpicking. A lot of times you go to the defense just naturally, you're like, well, it's not our fault, but I think our customers really love when they're just like, okay, we understand it went wrong, let us figure it out right now, and then we can deal with the back stuff later. We'll
Why do
take care of the internal stuff later.
Okay, great point. Why do you think we go defensive?
I
don't think we're worried about, oh, we did something wrong.
No, I think it's more just human nature of, well, somebody, you almost feel like they're accusing you, well, this went wrong, and so naturally you're just like, well, it's not my fault, I didn't do it.
Right.
The trucking company
Yeah,
screwed
we
up.
did everything we could so you'd have a great experience. So don't
Yeah.
put this on us, right?
Right.
Okay. So I hand over here, Keller, and then we'll go to.
I don't think this is us, but when I think of customer service, I immediately think of long wait line time on the phone. That's what I think about. And I think most people do, and so being able to solve problems quickly is critical, because that's not what's expected.
Yeah.
Right.
It can also be like knowing their company and knowing their needs and knowing the people. Sometimes customer support can just be asking us help. Like there was one customer that sat and chatted with us about how their family was, and then bought a pre-sale phone because they were just talking about their business and the needs they had, and we were like, well, actually, we have a product that wasn't intentional suggestion selling. We just were supporting them in theory.
Okay. Yeah, Vern.
You'd ask the question, why do we get defensive? I think sometimes it's just because the customer's upset. And our initial response, someone's up getting mad at us, we get defensive back. If we can immediately just try to put ourselves in their shoes, and so it was late, and then get talking and try to see it from their perspective, I think we'll be able to diffuse them because someone is being there sympathetic to their needs.
Excellent point. Yeah, Louis.
I also see support as a way to help our customers to use our product better and more solutions for them,
Right.
as opposed to just one specific.
Right. Whose needs are we focused at meeting when we talk about customer support? Ours or theirs?
Yes.
We're in business because we want to meet our needs and grow our business and all of that, but we do that by focusing on their needs. Because if we meet our customers' needs, then we've given them the support that they need, right? Yeah, Dave, you had a comment?
I think we do as a whole a very good job on that. I mean, because the customer can get a hold of us and, you know, they can talk to somebody. And unlike, I mean, Amazon has a lot of good customer service. You can return anything. But if you want to try to talk to somebody, that's impossible. I mean, you spend 2 hours.
I've done it once.
I have a number if you want.
But it's taken me 2 hours.
Once you have the number, you never delete that number.
Saved in a state.
Because it takes 3 days to get to the number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about the customer. And we just talked about the focus. Why focus so much on the customer? And I'm talking about internal customers as well as external customers. So what happens if we forget to focus on our external customer? And everybody knows this. It's just a reminder, so it's in our brain today, so it's in the forefront of our attention. So what happens if we don't meet our customers' needs, Brent?
Those customers go elsewhere.
Yeah, they go elsewhere. And what happens to our business if our customers go elsewhere?
They're closed down.
Declines and or closes, right? Okay. What happens if you forget to focus on your internal customer, especially if maybe it's your supervisor? Yeah. Brent?
Sometimes our internal customers, they can go elsewhere.
They can leave, and they also might invite you to leave.
Yeah.
Right? They might hand you a little box from the plant and say, hey, thanks, you're not doing your needs.
Promoted to customer.
Right? Yeah, you're I like it. Come on, you said. You said promoted to customer. Awesome. That's great, Travis. I like that. Okay, so when we talk about what their needs are, they have some basic expectations. What do you want to think about your expectations as a consumer and as a customer? What are your basic expectations
Quality product.
when you buy something? Quality products,
Fast
fast, okay?
Convenient
You
to.
want hassles?
No.
Yeah, you want it to be easy. You want them to do it right the first time, right? You want the product to work. You want the service to be easy. You want it done right the first time, right? When something goes wrong, what are your expectations?
That it'll be handled immediately.
Yeah, that they'll fix it. And they won't hassle you about it. That they'll say, oh yeah, I can see this is a problem. Let me fix it. Brent, did you have your hand up?
I have.
Oh, Mark had your hand up. Sorry.
I noticed.
Instead of holding hands.
I noticed on eBay and on Amazon, when people have positive comments, they usually say the product was as described, shipping was quick, good communication, things like that. I mean, those are the things that seem to impress people, at least on Amazon and eBay.
Right. Yeah, they're looking to us to meet their needs. They've got a product need, they want it to work right, or if something goes wrong, they need us to meet their expectations. If we meet their expectations, what does that do for them? When you go somewhere and you have a good experience, you'll build trust, and you're most likely to do what?
Go back.
Go back, right? You're not going to continue to shop around because you're like, you know what, I really like that tire shop. Yeah, they usually have good prices, sometimes not the best, but I really like the way they do it. I know I can go back if there's a problem. Kelly?
I'm not sure that meeting expectations is enough. You kind of want to have that edge and exceed expectations.
Sure.
Or it came a little faster, or the shipping was a little less than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Those little edges, because everyone, if you're in business, you're meeting people's expectations.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's the
Step
basic.
above that.
Yeah, that's the basic. That's not excellent, right? That's just meeting the bare minimum. Okay, good point. Yes, sir?
I mentioned this is the last one to learn, but almost all of the highly reviews that have been like awesome for me have been situations that were messed up that also couldn't be fixed. Like UPS lost something and we just couldn't like overnight something. And they still gave me like a good rating because I called the person right away, or I offered multiple different avenues to fix it and they chose, but it's funny to me that like information about their order is just as important as the product to some customers. They just want to be treated like a human being and be in the loop and be, and have feel like someone cares.
Yeah.
And that's what they're paid for more than even the product sometimes.
Excellent. And that's mentioned
I flipped
specifically a
her
little.
notes.
That was interesting. You're looking ahead, Star. Can you give those back to me? Okay.
I think another thing with expectations is being realistic with the customer. If you say, hey, I'll have it to you tomorrow, and then it's 3 days later, they're not gonna be happy with the situation. Whereas if I can tell them, hey, you know what, my deadline's already passed to ship today, so it's gonna ship out tomorrow, which gives you an ETA of 2 days from then. When I tell them realistically, they're like, oh, okay, great. But I tell them, oh yeah, I'll get it out for you for sure, and then it doesn't ship. They're like, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, we should never say, hey, that'll go out today, and having no idea how many are sitting in the warehouse,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
What time it is,
So
or
it's just
Or
being
what time it
real
is,
with
or, yeah.
You know, we were actually just talking about that exact topic today, Nathan and I, and we were talking about, you know, because we have so many different options of, if we're talking about shipping, so many different options to ship. So coming out of a warehouse, well, we've got 4 warehouses that we can, regional warehouses that we can pull from. Or is it going in LTL, or is it coming FedEx from us?
Mhm.
All of those have different cutoff times. And so to be able to have that conversation with the customer and saying, well, it's coming up on this deadline, you know, we've passed that deadline, we can't get it out of the warehouse, but we can ship it from Utah, or we can ship it FedEx, or we can. So I think a lot of it just comes down to information,
Right.
and being able to convey that information,
Right.
and allowing our customer to have a few more choices,
Mhm.
internal and external customers, of how do you want us to proceed.
Yeah. I know whenever I ask Brendan if I need to report or something, he always gives me options. Okay, do you want it this way? Do you want it that way? Would you like to see this? Would you like to see, and then when do you need it by? And okay, yeah, I think I can do that. Occasionally it'll be like, ooh, I don't know, Brad's got me pretty lined out today. Just kidding, right? But usually asking those questions and setting expectations, they call it managing expectations. We won't cover that in great deal today, but helping the customer understand what's realistic. It's not realistic to order it at 5 o'clock and expect it to be there at 10 in the morning if it's going on the truck. Right? Yeah, Vernon?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go. The difference in customer care there in that is that we've always told customers, well, you can have it overnight or you can have it ground. That's been from the beginning of Pure Creek, we told them the option. The difference is in the semantics for us in our position where we say, I know these aren't ideal options, but these are options. Or I know it's a lot of money to overnight, but when do you need it? Just that little bit of, I understand, or this isn't the most unfortunate situation, but I'm just as involved in this process as you. That makes, like we just said before, well.
Billy, hand back the notes, please.
Well, you and Ronnie worked out.
Just reading your
Throwing
mind.
you softballs.
Here we go, okay. Now let's talk about when things go wrong. We talked about meeting our expectations, doing it right the first time. How do we know when something's gone wrong?
Hear about it.
They tell you, right?
Weird.
So when they tell us, the first reaction shouldn't be, "Whoa." No, they're flagging it up to let you know. Like I won't go into great details, but I've been buying sprinkler goods from a company for like 20 years. And they messed up my pricing, and I called to just let the guy know, hey, there seems to be something wrong with my pricing, because the cost for this is actually higher than I can get it at Home Depot.
Oh.
And I said, I don't think that's right. And the guy got all defensive, said, well, you know, your order history, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't know what count you're looking at, but you can look and see my order history. You know, I spend tens of thousands of dollars a year here, and now you're telling me I don't buy enough. Anyway, guy ended up hanging up on me. So I called him back. You know, I'm not a confrontational person. So I called him back. And I said, did you seriously just hang up on me? And he goes, yeah, I'm sorry. I said, can I talk to your manager? He said, well, I am the manager. I said, well, now at least I know what's wrong with your company. And we had a talk, and he said, well, I'm really sorry, you know, I can look into this, blah, blah. I said, hey, look, you know how to get a hold of me. If you want my business, you're going to have to come get it now. And so I haven't been back since. But it really matters how they handle that stuff, right? So if they tell you there's a problem, let's say, okay, they're warning us. This isn't ideal for me. I love you guys. If you don't fix it, I'm going to have to go somewhere else. We just had a conversation with supplier. Was that yesterday or the day before? Where pricing got to a point where we can't work that out anymore. We said, we love you guys, but if we can't get this worked out, we're going to have to go somewhere else. And that's a hard conversation to have. But if they're listening, they'll see if they can work something out, and maybe you end up, it's like a breakup, okay? So that's something to remember. So,
Scott,
yes.
Sometimes they don't call. Sometimes they just stop purchasing. And that's where our accounting people can be hugely influential to say, hey, have you noticed that so-and-so has stopped ordering over the last 3 months, and they used to order every 2 months, and maybe we got to find out what's going on and make a phone call or see what's up.
Yeah.
We could, you know, within 6 months, you can lose a customer and never have them back.
Yeah. And you might have got a chance to save it if you called and said, hey, David, I noticed you haven't got order. Is everything all right? Did we let you down? Or?
And he might say, yeah, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. And then you get a chance, hopefully, to resolve it. He might say, hey, you know what, after the way I was treated, I'm never coming back. Or he might say, well, there was a problem with an order and I can't have that. Then you get a chance to fix it. So we've all heard the phrase, the customer is always right. How many of you believe that? Raise your hand. Okay, I don't. Sometimes the customer is wrong. But I do believe that the customer is always the customer, right? And I think that's the difference. So we need to focus on the customer and remember that they are always the customer. These are, this one's kind of funny. I think sometimes we feel good if we won the point or won the argument, or maybe we hung up on that contractor. It felt really good, right? But how does that change our focus? What do we mean when we say the customer is always the customer?
They're the ones paying us.
Yeah, they're the ones paying.
We hope to work it out. Again, they may not necessarily,
Okay.
they may think that they're right, they may be wrong, but again, they're still the customer. They're the ones that we have the ability, they influence our paychecks.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to matter to each of you, but I know there was a shift in my mind. This doesn't have to do with customer service. It has to do with my marriage, where, you know, my wife and I are pretty strong-willed people. You know, I wanted someone with a mind of their own, and boy, I got it, right? And so that's great when she agrees with me, but there are several times a day where we don't always see eye to eye, right? And I realized, like, this cartoon here talks about, oh, I won the argument, you know. Yeah, I could probably win most of the arguments with my wife, but then I realized, hey, you know what? I know how to win an argument with my wife. You guys want to know how? This is how, okay? Cry first. Okay? If you cry first, and then if that doesn't work, run to the bathroom and lock the door. That's how you win an argument with your wife. The point is, I had to realize at some time, and I had this, to me, it was an epiphany. And we were sitting here arguing about the dumbest thing. And I knew I was right. And I knew she was wrong. And then this little voice inside my head said, hey, stupid. I said, what? What I call myself. And, he said, what's more important to you, to be right or to be married? And I thought, I think I'd rather be married than right. So I'm wrong all the time now. But I'm right. Okay? But that's the point, I guess, behind what does it mean that the customer is always the customer? Doesn't mean that they're right. But what it means is you're committed to that relationship. And even though you're going to bite your tongue and hold back because you could really make this point really good and show them how they're in the wrong, you choose instead to meet their need and put their value that relationship above being right, I guess is the way to put it, right?
This is kind of hokey and dorky sounding, but ultimately, the customer isn't even necessarily a paycheck to, at least to us, the customer care. I know that's the ultimate, our business wants to make money, but they need something from us, just like the relationship you're talking about. If you look at it as a human being that needs something that we have, that makes it a lot easier to deal with the conflict, because you can just ask, what do you need from me? What can I do to help you? Where can we meet? Where can I meet your needs? Instead of making it about two different objectives.
Great comment.
This relates more to the previous screen, but an owner of a company that I used to work for, he was also an attorney. And he said he had one customer, one client, that when he would call him with bad news, the customer would always say, when did you learn about this? And the first time he said, oh, a few days ago. Why am I learning about it now? So he taught, us, who cares about good news? But bad news, you've got to get that out immediately.
Urgent.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want them to find out from somebody else, right? Yeah. Okay, great point. Sometimes we don't know, as Vernon mentioned, that something has gone wrong. They won't tell us. Sometimes they'll just start buying another product, or you won't even know about it. And sometimes if we can even find out a roundabout way from one of our contractors, oh, so-and-so, they're not happy with that project. Oh, about it. Hopefully it'll just go away. Do we ever wish that? Oh, I hope they don't say anything. Maybe it'll get by. I'm of the opinion, if we learn that there was a problem, the first thing we should do is pick up the phone and say, hey, I just heard through the grapevine that maybe things didn't go so well in this particular instance. So Brack and I had the opportunity to go to Florida to attend a trade show together. When we weren't racing around in the Dodge Challenger,
literally racing.
We actually got a lot of work done. One of the things that we did is Kim Andres let us know that we had done Ashford in the Orlando City Soccer Stadium. Pretty high profile project. We thought, oh, that'd be great. Let's go see it. So we went there to see it. I'll try to make this long story short. Went there to see it. We didn't know anybody. Hit security. The gal gave us the runaround. You're absolutely not coming in. You have to know somebody here. They have to give you an invite. And then I thought to myself, well, who can we call? So she gave us the name for the person they call, right? So we're like, okay, great. So we called this guy named John Flesha. And I called and got his voicemail. And I'm like, hey, John, this is Scott. I'm Kierkegaard Distribution. Me and a colleague are out here. We put Ashford on your floor. And we'd just like to come and see how the job went and see how you're liking your floor. And give us a call back. We're just in town for 2 days. So what was it, an hour and a half later, we went to get some lunch and run from the police. And
What did he call our visit?
Yeah, he at the end of the visit, he said it was very serendipitous. But when he called me back, he said, hey, Scott, this is John. You don't want to come here. I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, we hate our floor, and I'm not sure you want to come see it. And I said, well, John, I especially want to come see the floor now, because that's not the experience we want you to have. He said, well, all right, I'll put your name on the list, and he buzzed me in. When can you be here? And so we finished our lunch and went down there and got in, and they had done polished concrete in their lobby. It was supposed to be big and impressive. They'd already tiled over it and put carpet on it because they hated it. And so we waited. There was a nice looking lobby. This is what it looks like now. Well, is that the lobby? Yeah, that's the lobby. So, no, yeah. No, that's not the lobby. Yeah, it's a different part of it. Anyway, so we walked around with them, and it's probably the worst job I had ever been to. Maybe not Brack. Brack's seen a lot more jobs than I have, but it was horrible. The concrete was horrible. There was, how would you describe it?
broom finished with a rake and then asphalted,
Yeah,
which is not something that's ever can turn out pretty.
right, so so the architect specified putting Ashford on broom finished concrete inside the concourse. And so all around their food areas was stained, especially where they had the little Dippin' Dots. It was all black and nasty, and it just looked horrible. And he said, yeah, we're thinking of, I think he was going with epoxy or something they were gonna put down on their floor. And so we said, well, you know, let us sit down and talk to you about it and how it's supposed to turn out. Come to find out, our rep had never even been on the job. I never saw the job. We called the contractor and I said, hey, how did this go? Well, we did everything right. They immediately got defensive. I said, I'm just trying to get information because we're going to go see this guy. And it took them a little bit to call us back. But turns out John said, well, you know, we're trying to be fair about it because we had a deadline and then the league pushed up our starting game. So everybody was crunched. And those guys that applied it, I know they did, you know, the best they could, but we just hate our floor. So he wasn't suing anybody. He wasn't going to call and complain. They were just going to move on. How sad that would be to have epoxy all over our floor in Orlando when that could be a big flagship product. So Brack and I sat down and we had prepared a presentation on some of our products. We took out the part on Kickstart, told them how we had a product that they could come in, we could diamond polish their floors. With the Kickstart, it could lower the cost, and he was ecstatic. And he kept saying, oh man, I'm sure glad you guys came. It's like we saved his day. Even though we didn't promise him any discounts, we didn't give him any free stuff, we just told him, here's the solution for your product. Well, that would have been great. Handed it off to our representative and said, hey, make sure you follow up. And I didn't hear anything for a couple of weeks. And so I call and say, because our rep was going to take and get some samples put down by some of our local applicators. So I hadn't heard anything. I called John back, hey, how's it going? I haven't heard from our rep. Nope, I haven't heard a peep from anybody. Then Brack had to get some people lined out. They went out and did a sample. We told them that we wanted them to use the Kickstart. 3 people put down samples, and none of them used the Kickstart. None of them followed directions, and he hated all but one of them. It didn't turn out very well. In the meantime, Centimark came in, which is one of our competitors, and they put down a sample, and he loved theirs best of all. So John's question to me was, hey, Scott, would it be all right if I had Centimark do the work and they just use your product? And I said, well, being as how they're a densifier manufacturer and they're a competitor and they do their own, I doubt they're going to want to do that. We really need to get someone in there to put the sample down the way we talked about. So make a long story short, we finally got somebody in there, put the Kickstart down. It was too good. I said, wow, that's really almost too good. Can we tone it down a little bit? So they've worked that out. They're going to get the bid. They were the lowest bid because they used the Kickstart. And we actually saved that project. So now it's going to be a retroplate job. So if you ever know Orlando and go to the soccer stadium, you'll say, yeah, that's our floor. But it would have never happened if we hadn't have just happened upon the customer's need not being met. So what are some things that we can learn from that?
He gave us a lot of chances.
He gave us a lot of chances. Why did he give us a lot of chances?
Because you were there in person?
Yeah, probably because we'd established a relationship, right? And he really appreciated the way we handled it. And you know, we didn't blame anybody and we didn't badmouth anyone, and we just said, oh, well, that's unfortunate. You know, normally architects don't specify, you know, broom finished concrete and then Ashford on top. It's not really designed that way.
I think he had enough knowledge that he knew the product could have been better in the first place, and so he wanted to move forward that way. He's been in this type of industry his whole life, so he knew he didn't really want an epoxy. But he couldn't think of another solution at the time. And that's what they had put in their budget for this season, was to fix that concourse floor. And when he found out he could keep it concrete, he was pretty excited. And then if our follow-up had happened sooner, he wouldn't have had to kind of keep getting chances like Star just mentioned. He did give us a bunch of chances, and in the end it panned out. But he was pretty patient to allow that many chances.
But, and something else that we learned is, if he wasn't going to call me, he wasn't going to call me and said, hey, nobody showed up. He's just going to blow it off. Oh, if they can't even show up, they must not want to work. I'm going to go somewhere else, right? So we actually had to keep the promises that we made. That required some phone calls. And to make sure it went through every, Kim doesn't like me anymore. I'll have to tell you, Kim Andres, I'm not his favorite person because I wrote him like Zorro, and he's not happy about it. That's your phrase, Brendan. Yeah. So, okay, so we have to be persistent. We have to care. We have to call. And not be afraid to put ourselves in the firing line and say, okay, hey, I know there's a problem. I'm here to, don't shoot. I'm here to fix it. Right?
I just think it also just shows, just because an architect puts something in a spec, doesn't mean he knows what he's talking about. Right. And so if it would have been a good spec, it would probably have been okay to begin with, but we're trying to cover up with a poorly designed floor.
So do you think anybody called the architect to say, hey, just want to update you on some information? We asked him to. I guarantee it hasn't happened,
Probably not, yeah.
right? Brennan, you had a comment?
Yeah, I heard someone saying something behind here, though, I didn't know if someone else.
Yeah, how many times? Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a time crunch in this and so, but like, that would have been a red flag for me if I were an applicator to show up and see a room finished.
Yeah.
Like,
And a rep.
This was the applicator's first Ashford job.
Rep certainly should have been there,
It was a painting company. And our rep wasn't there.
and a big project.
I was wondering.
Yeah. Kelly, you had something? Did you have another comment? Okay.
It's just you were proactive about it. You didn't just wait until, I mean, I think a lot of problems, if we approach them from proactive rather than reactive state, something happens. Otherwise, it just dies on its own. Lack of neglect.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, awesome, yeah.
Just I'll be quick, I know you're trying to get it,
We
there's
plan on a lot of discussion.
just a tiny little bit of addition to that story. So there's a contractor, that we tried to bring on board years ago, because they do a lot of work, do a lot of polished concrete and potential with Ashford and whatnot, and, an employee who no longer works here offended them greatly. And so they left, and they haven't used our product since. And we've tried, I see them a World of Concrete, I've always tried to get back in with them. We've attempted from several different angles. And they made a change with some of their management, so I reached out to the new person, who I'd known for years, and said, hey, you know what? I know it hasn't gone so well the last few years, but we have a product called Kickstart. And I think this is a game changer for you guys, and got them excited about this Kickstart thing. And you know what? You're right. Let's let bygones be bygones and come, so Jim went in and trained them with Kickstart. They were excited. We started this opportunity. That's the contractor who has that job. Because Jim had just trained them. We were just getting going with them, trying to extend that olive branch to them. So that's when you said that, when one of you asked Jim, is there a contractor? He's like, I just trained these guys. They're big enough to do this really easily. We're trying to win an opportunity with them. And so we've got two problems. One is the stadium, one is the contractor, who have now, by trying to solve these problems, have converged into this amazing project.
Yes.
So just a question, when you contact the project manager of the project?
He's the operations director.
Or for the soccer stadium.
For the Orlando City Soccer Stadium.
When you contacted him, did you know that there was a problem in the
We hadn't been inside.
No, we were just gonna go look at the
Go
floor.
see, yeah.
We're gonna take a few pictures
Of this beautiful.
On the back about how awesome our product is. Then we can go do more. We got burnout.
Because when I think about stadiums, I think they're just,
What's that?
I said, then you're gonna go do some more smoking.
That's right.
In the parking lot.
We've got videos afterwards. Rack left a 70-foot burnout.
These concrete problems are turning into our smoky burnout.
The reason I'm asking that, this example is an important example as well for us to follow up on just with the customer after a project is done, to see, is he satisfied with work? And so is that...
It's no different than when we go out to eat, right? When they bring you your food, they set it there, they go away and they let you start eating. And if they're a good restaurant, they'll come back and say, hey, is everything prepared to your satisfaction? Is everything good? And that's your point to flag it up. If you don't, you eat it or you don't eat it and it sits on your plate. I've been to restaurants where you go and you're like, it's obvious, you've taken 2 bites. Server's oblivious. Are you done with your plate, sir? Okay, thanks. It's crazy, right? Is that how we're set up? Do we have a follow-up mechanism? We probably don't. So a lot of times we're just serving it up and walking away, and we know we do good service, so we know it's good. We don't have to check back with you. That's probably the wrong approach, yeah.
That goes back to Brendan's point of when did you find out? This customer, when did you find out? Even when you guys found out, it still took, as you mentioned, it still took time to, but they still at Cinemark?
Questmark.
Yeah,
Questmark.
It's gonna be a movie.
Yeah,
It'll be a Questmark later.
Yeah, that's the movie you guys.
That's the movie about the soccer stadium.
Got it, we did.
Brent and I are starring in it. They're just Dodge Challenger. It's a really good show. Yeah.
Anyway, it's just that kind of Questmark. Yeah, it just allows somebody else to come in, so our time is even.
Not a marker, though.
If we're not quick enough on it.
Yeah.
So when did you know I had used the wrong word?
I don't know, something, I was like, Cinemark.
Mark,
Oh.
that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Actually, you're not so wrong. Centamark is the roofing company that owns Questmark.
Okay,
It's okay, you're good.
thank you, Vernon. Okay, sorry. Century Mark, go ahead.
I had an old boss on my old job that said, I'm not really into praise. If a light switch, like if I go to hit a light switch, it should turn on. And that's how I think of my employees, and so I'm not gonna praise you for doing your job. And I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. And I have found that that is baloney, because like, even with, with that customer, I would have said, like, oh, or there's some that will call in and tell me, oh, my appeal didn't arrive. And I make a point to say, thank you for communicating with us. Thank you for calling me. Thank you for doing it so promptly. And even though they're not an employee, that is a form of payment. It's a valuable thing to someone to be thanked for
Yes.
doing what they do, whether it's letting us know about a problem or all the other things.
Okay, great point. Well, there was a survey done by Cooper and Associates of bank customers, and asked them, when something goes wrong, what are your expectations? These were the top 10 expectations they had for what we call a recovery effort. Number one is to be called back when promised. Okay, number one. If they call you, you think, what do you think if they don't call you back? They don't care, right? It's not important. Okay? They want an explanation of how it happened. Not an excuse, not blaming another department, but an explanation. Here's what happened. You know what? The truck got delayed. The driver got kidnapped. Whatever it is. The phone got stolen right out of the car. Whatever it is. Okay. Know who to contact. They want to know, who can I contact if I have an appointment? They don't want to be bounced around. This is especially true of bigger companies. We don't have that issue here because we all know who we should contact, so that helps. They also want to be promptly contacted when it's resolved. Hey, we got it fixed. This is on the way. Or, hey, I fixed that report. It's in your inbox. It should be ready for your meeting, whatever that might be. They want to be allowed to talk to someone in authority or manager. Okay, what did I say the first thing when I called back the guy that hung up on me? I didn't want to talk to him anymore. I want to talk to somebody who can actually do something about it, right? Turns out it was him. They want to know how long it will take. If there's a problem, give them a realistic expectation of how long it will take. You know what, this is going to take me a couple of days. Hey, I'll get right on it and get back to you. Although the enthusiasm is appreciated, when you don't get right back to them because it's a 2-day problem to solve, they're not going to be happy with you. They want to be given useful alternatives. This was mentioned earlier. You know, we can either air freight it there now, or we can wait and see if the truck shows up tomorrow, whatever the issue. They want alternatives. They want to be treated like a person, not an account. They want to know that your problem matters to them. They also want to know, how can I prevent this in the future? Well, don't ship with this company, or, you know, shop somewhere else, whatever the case might be. You know, hopefully it's never shopped somewhere else. Okay, and they want to receive progress reports. How's it going? What's happened next? Okay, any of you have any that you'd want to add to these? Top 10.
That whole thing needs to go to Dominion Energy. Those problems I've had with those people.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, yeah.
A big thing I noticed too, as far as like, is warm transferring versus cold transferring is something that goes a long way with customers.
Yeah, don't just say, let me transfer you, boop. Get them on the line. Hey, I've got so-and-so here. This is what they want. Have I anything else I can do for you? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let you talk to Brent now, and he'll take care of you, right? Okay, awesome.
Is that Tim Tebow?
I don't know.
Tim Tebow's having to sit by the phone?
Oh, wait, maybe. Maybe it's Tebow.
I think it is.
Okay, so when we ignore problems, several things happen, right? If we ignore a problem with our external customer, we lose money, right? They'll run off to a customer or a competitor. They'll become someone else's customer. Yeah, they'll become our competitor. That's happened as well, right? Our status in the industry and our reputation will go down, especially with reviews now. Go online. Oh, never buy this from this company. They're horrible. Okay, and then we can miss future opportunities as well. So those are just some of the things. Can you think of anything else that can happen if we ignore a problem?
Yeah, I hate to say this, but in this litigious society we live in anymore, You wait, you don't handle it. By the time they do sue you, now you're really in trouble because you never did anything about it, and they're going to throw everything at you as opposed to just, well, we did this, we tried, we were. I hate to bring that up. It should just be because they're a customer, because they're a person. We treat them like a human, but that is an effect.
Yeah, and hundreds of dollars per hour adds up really quick when you got an attorney involved, when you could have just sent them some more material or took care of the problem, right? Do you have something you want to share, Brad? Okay. All right. What happens if we ignore internal customers?
We get on weird bikes.
Yeah, we lose respect as a professional. They think, oh, they're not confident.
Share that key with me. I am.
You get bikes that go the wrong direction, is that what you said, Brock? It hampers how you work as a team, right? You end up pulling against each other instead of working with each other. Okay. The lost opportunities to grow business.
Orders get lost.
You can lose your job, you can lose a career opportunity. What are some others here? I mentioned them all.
The actual issue or
Oh,
order
and
could be
damage
lost to the process.
Oh, yeah, and damage to morale. So it can damage company morale. Oh, man, nobody here knows how to do anything. You know, that's the worst, right? You want to know that you can count on the people that you work with and that they've got your back and you've got theirs. That's a big part of what it means to service an internal customer. When you think about how we want our external customers to feel about us, they know that when they call us, we can meet their needs and be a part of a successful project for them. Our internal customers want the same thing. They want to know that they can engage each one of us and we can do our part and make for a successful project that they're working on. Dakota and then Sherry.
Well, it also can create problems externally if internal problems are happening, because say me and Sherry weren't getting along, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna go to Sherry, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, because I don't wanna talk to her today. Then it causes problems externally, because then all of a sudden she's like, well, why did they get this? And she's calling the customer, and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Dakota released it to me, it's mine.
We're
So
not
if
shipping
there's
it.
internal issues, it can actually cause external issues for our customers, and then if they see those problems going on, they're like, well, this company's not well put together, so maybe I don't want to do business with them in the end.
Don't make our problems their problems.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
great, Sherry.
I think one of the main things that you've got to do with your external customers, even with your internal customers, you got to follow up if there's a problem. And it's going to take longer to resolve. At least contact them and let them know you're still working with them. Don't just let them sit there and wonder.
Yeah, that's giving those progress.
Progress
report, right?
report.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Okay, so let's talk about how we fix it. When it's gone wrong, I think people are generally kind of fair. They'll let you have a shot at fixing it, but they're not going to wait forever. Okay, so you got to get done right about it. So I think there's about 6 things that you can do to solve problems that really help the customer. Number 1, I think, is the most important thing, is to apologize. And I'm not saying I apologize. We are just horrible. You know, we do this all the time. I don't know why we do it. That's not what we're talking about, right? We don't want to incur any liability. Oh, I'm sorry, this is entirely our fault. You know, you don't have to go that far. You can just say something like, I'm sorry this has happened, okay? And don't blame the problem on other parts of the organization. I'm sorry, I wish our accounting department could just get it together. That doesn't make your company look good either, right?
Doesn't solve the problem, that's why they're calling.
Right. And obviously, when you apologize, it helps them not want to fight, right? And it also disarms you, because when you apologize, all of a sudden, you're not trying to defend your position anymore. You've stepped outside and you're having empathy with the customer and say, you know, I'm really sorry this has happened. This must have been really hard on your project. Or, hey, I'm sorry I didn't get you that report that you needed. Or, I'm sorry I dropped the ball on the assignment we had for this subcommittee. That kind of makes things a little difficult. I'm sorry. Something like that. So I think that's just common sense, right? I think we all kind of do that naturally if we're trying to do the right thing. So first thing to do is apologize. The second thing to do is listen and empathize. I think you need to demonstrate that you care about them and their problem, and the best way to do that is to just shut up and listen, right? Sometimes I have to tell myself, shut up, just listen, because they've rehearsed the story all the way into work, how they're going to get on the phone and they're going to call, and they've already, I mean, how many of you have done that? You rehearse it 10 times, 20 times on the way, and you just want to get it out and have somebody just jump right in on you because you didn't get to say all the cool things you wanted to say, makes you even more mad, right? So listen, don't interrupt, let them finish their story. Yes, and I'm learning. And that's the great thing. Someday I'm going to be a great husband. Okay? I'm working on it. And then to say things like, I can understand, I can see why you're upset. Oh, that would make me mad too. All of a sudden, you're on their side. You're not defending, you're understanding, and you're empathizing. And also, don't cast judgment about, I can't see why you're so upset about that. It's only 4 hours late. What's the big deal? I mean, sometimes people get exasperated about things that we think are so small. But we need to remember, we're not in their world. And this small thing to us, looking from the outside, like you're just making a storm in a teacup, might be a big, huge thing. They might have somebody bearing down on them, and that this made it so they couldn't meet their commitment. Or maybe they're just having a bad day. Whatever it is, don't cast judgment. Think, oh my gosh, this is a crazy person.
You do that once you're off the phone. You get the phone, you're like, wow.
But if you think it,
All right.
right, but if you think it while you're on the phone, and sometimes, you want to be able to share stories with your colleagues and vent a little bit. That keeps you healthy. But if you really see your customers as stupid, eventually you'll start treating them that way, right? So you need to remember that. So you want to make it about them and not about you. What's that?
No, I was just naming customers.
Brent's going to give it a little extended session after we're done. It's going to name all the customers we all have to think differently about, right? Okay. And then, sorry you mentioned this before, thank them for bringing it to their attention. Yeah, I can see why you're so upset. I'm so grateful you brought this to our attention. We want to try to avoid this ever happening to anybody again, right? Okay. Then you want to fix the problems quickly and fairly. There's two things you have to recognize. There's two things to fix. Okay. When I called about my pricing, there was two things that needed fixed. Number one, me, as far as my relationship to that company, and second was the pricing. Okay, if you'd have just said, oh, okay, well, how much do you want this sprinkler head for? I'll give it to you today for that. That fixed the immediate problem, but it didn't fix the bigger problem, which is why I still wouldn't shop there, even if he had given me the right pricing. Right? So there's two things to fix. And involve the customer in the solution. Hey, I'm really sorry this has happened. I can see why you're upset. What do you think we should do to resolve this? Now, if you have some ideas, you can say things like, you know what, this doesn't happen very often, but it has happened in the past. We've usually done one of two things, this or this. Does any one of those solutions appeal to you, or do you have something that you'd rather us do? So involve them in the solution, okay? Don't quote policy to your customer. They don't care. Well, sir, our policy is
Your policy sucks.
Yeah, okay, well, that's fine. I thought I was your customer. No, we have policies for a reason. Well, I'm not saying ignore policies. Just don't, in the heat of the moment, start quoting policies to your customer. They don't want to hear it. They want to hear that you're working with them to have a solution. Now, notice I didn't say don't follow policy. I said don't quote policy, okay? Because we still should try to solve the problem within our policies and what we can actually do. Sorry, you had a question?
The code of quote policy as a way to build rapport. So like if there's a will call, we never charge the will call fee from Utah because we're going to have this warehouse no matter what.
Right.
Sometimes in these kinds of situations, we'll be like, we'll waive the will call fee, which didn't, we already waived. But we like to do that because it does build a rapport.
Right.
So we quote policy sometimes if we're going to bend or we already know we're allowed to disregard that policy for them, but we let them know that we're doing this thing for them. And that is something.
Right, well, one thing I can do for you right off the bat is we won't charge you a will call fee.
Yeah.
You know, we're sorry, you know, we can do that right off the bat. What else do I need to do to make this right? Well, you can grab the pail and bring it up here, you know, whatever, okay? You also have to be sincere. You have to be personable too, right? You don't want to talk to somebody reading from a script. I hate it when you call the customer service and there's a pause and you can hear the pages flipping. And then you're like, okay, sir, what we can do for you is this. Okay, you don't want that. So be personal. And then we've already covered this, be timely. Okay?
I will be there tomorrow.
I also find that it's good when you're in a heated situation to pose your solutions as questions. Instead of saying, well, here's what we're going to do for you. Say, you know what we could do, how does that sound to you? So if you pose it as a question, you've involved them. Maybe it's you're doing exactly what you should have done and right along with policy, but you've given them an opportunity to talk about it. The example here was, would it work if I were able to deliver that on site tomorrow? You know, is there any way of salvaging the order? How could I, you know, what's the latest I could get it there and still meet your needs? Okay, again, we talked about explaining what went wrong, and keep it professional. Remember that you are the company to the customer. So however you act, that's how they're gonna view Curecrete. And if you think about it, that's what Curecrete is, it's all of us. Yep.
I find that rarely is fixing problems quickly and fairly involve kidnapping. Will you explain that picture?
Yeah, me too.
WD-40 and duct tape fixes everything.
Oh, and then the zip ties and the swear jar. I just thought this was a kidnapping taking place.
Ties are, you know, you can tie.
I followed. Okay, thank you.
Swear jars,
That actually does make sense, but it didn't for, okay.
She fixes stuff for me, the swear jar gets really, really full.
I don't swear.
That picture, I don't know.
That's where I went. That's my collection.
Kidnapping. I like it. Now we know who's doing the kidnapping on the next picture. Okay, and sometimes we have to offer atonement or an appropriate gesture that says, hey, I want to make this up to you. I go into Little Caesar's Pizza on Springville to get their hot and ready pizza. I think I mentioned this to you before. And it's never hot and ready. So when I actually order, I say, yeah, I'd like one of those hot and never ready pizzas. And they're like, oh yeah, that's going to be about 5 minutes. Is that okay? I said, hey, it's nothing free Crazy Bread won't fix. Oh, okay, sure, I can do that. And so I walk out of there with free Crazy Bread, knowing I was going to wait 5 minutes.
You don't even like the pizza, you just like the Crazy Bread.
Bread, right?
Much better. Easy there, Jedi mind trick.
These are nothing I'm looking for.
Nothing giving me the title to this company one day.
So, what would be some gestures that you think internally and externally, what would these gestures look like? What if you bombed helping out a colleague on something? Hey, you know what, I'm really sorry. Can I take you to lunch next week? It might be something like that. Or it might be, hey, can I rub your feet right now? No, probably wouldn't be that.
We're back to the zip ties and duct tape.
Looks like zip ties. Kidnapping. What are some things that you've given or you think are good ways to atone for something?
You know, I think sometimes the most important thing is just saying, my bad. I failed. I'm sorry, and I will really try not to do that again. And because everybody's been there, everybody's made a mistake. So if we just own up to our mistakes sometimes, and then actually try to improve and not let it happen again, that's as much an atonement as I feel like I ever need.
Sometimes though, you can tell you just haven't hit the mark, and they need a little something.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not saying every time, hey, we'll give you free freight, you know, whatever. We don't always have to offer atonement, but sometimes it's necessary to kind of get them back over the edge to say, hey, we're really sorry. You know, let us send you out, I don't know, something. Yeah,
A hat.
a free
We'll
Ashford
do a hat.
mug, right? You raised your hand, sorry. What was,
Internally.
this is not unusual.
Okay, I just wanted you to know.
Offer an appropriate gesture and make it up for us.
Dakota's not super expressive about her feelings. She's very, very good at describing the processes here. So internally, I found that like empathizing is huge for her because she's not just going to go be like, I'm sad or I'm tired or I'm overworked. So for me to say, I understand that when I messed up on this order, it put pressure on you, and I'm sorry about that. And personally, in addition to work-wise, I feel sorry about that. That's like huge for her to just be understood without having to, you know, blame me for it or explain it too much. So when I say I understand it put pressure on you, she just is like, thank you. So she doesn't have to. She's not a complainer, you know. So she won't tell me that put pressure on her. So internally, that's just as important as like externally to me.
Good. Somebody else, yeah.
If it gets too bad, sometimes one of the things I like to do is say, hey, let me offer you a discount on your next purchase of Ashford or Retroplate, because then it still continues the customer. They're going to keep being a customer to get this discount, not just, let me cut that in half. Well, they still might not ever be a customer again, and we just cut the price in half for some reason. So if I have to do that, I like to do it on your next order, on a future
We'll
purchase.
send you a free drum on your next order of 50.
Yeah.
We used that one on a diamond return restocking fee recently, and they said short that I would help them out with enough of a discount that it helps their restocking fee.
And isn't that good because it's our cost and not like we're paying a freight bill that they don't pay?
Correct.
Like
Yeah, and it's, yeah, we actually give them stuff that we've got a little margin, and so we actually end up giving less out of our bottom line, but it's still, to them, it's the same value, right? Okay, great. Okay, fifth is to keep your promises, okay? You've already failed them once. The last thing that you can do is the worst thing that you can do is make a bunch of promises and then not keep them. because then you've just blown every chance you have of getting back there. They've given you a chance, we're gonna let you make it right. But if you don't, and we almost blew it on this soccer stadium, right? We didn't keep our promise. Luckily, we'd just call on time when he was about ready to write us off. But that's an example of how it could have affected us negatively. Keep them informed of what's happening, even if you're having a hard time. Say, hey, I want you to know I'm working on this. I've made 18 calls today. I haven't found one contractor that I could get out there to do it. I'm still on it. I'm going to make another 18 calls tomorrow, and we're really trying to get this done for you, whatever the case may be, right? And then when you're done, let them know, say, hey, you know what? From my side of the table, I think I did everything I told you I was going to do. Is that your experience, or did I miss something? And let them confirm, nope, you did everything that you said you'd do. I'm good now. Or they might say, well, you remember you said you were going to do this? Oh, yeah. And then you got a chance to fix it. And last, of course, is follow-up. Make sure that what you planned was properly executed. In our world, there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of different parties that get involved. And if it's the complaint that we took, we want to see it through to the finish and follow up, whether it's the parties involved that are fixing or directly with the end customer. Make sure that you follow up. And then at the end, make sure the customer is happy. If you're the one who took the complaint, even if other people solved it, call them back and see if it turned out the way that they wanted to be, and let them know that, hey, just so you know, because of this, we've changed our policy about such and such and such. If you've made a change, let them know that you've made a change and that assure them that it won't happen again. Does that make sense? Okay, lastly, you need to remember that we're professional, okay? We need to be calm. We need to be level-headed. We need to not get caught in the emotional whirlwind when they call. And never give up. Continue to try to solve their problem. Continue until they tell you, go away, don't ever call me again. Keep trying. If you get to a restraining order, you know you've gone too far. Okay, but do the best you can. We wanted to finish with just what I think is an excellent demonstration of these three principles. And it was on Jerry's first big order. So our marketing department actually sat down with Jerry and recorded the story of the first big order. It's about 11 or 12 minutes long. We are out of time, but hopefully you'll all want to stay and watch it because it's really good. So there's three parts, and the first one is he tells about the order, and they talk about how they kind of got stuck in the mud with their truck, and then how it got worse. So.
Scott, can I make one more
Yes.
comment? Sorry.
Yep.
Another thing to fixing a problem and kind of all of that combined together is sometimes just telling the customer, you know, I know we really failed this time, but next time, here's what I know now, so this problem doesn't persist, you know. We have this issue going on with Callum where a new TSA regulation really just threw us for a loop, and we failed Callum every turn we made. It was a fail. And, you know, I told him in my last email, I said, I am so sorry we failed you and that we put you in this situation with, you know, it's costing you money, and the company used a different product than ours and all this stuff. And so I told him, I said, next time, now we know how strict they are and what they're expecting, we'll be ready for this. And so sometimes I think it's just being really, really vulnerable and honest with them, saying, we really screwed up, and there's nothing we can do to redeem ourselves this time, but next time we'll be prepared. We'll be there for you. And kind of, we call it kid gloving in customer care. We use our kid gloves every time from that point.
Yeah,
so I think it's just being really honest and vulnerable with them because they're being vulnerable with you. They're telling you, you put me in this position. Maybe it wasn't you personally or, you know, the trucking company did, but they're being vulnerable with you. So sometimes just being vulnerable back and telling them, yeah, you know what, I didn't know how to handle this, and now I do.
Yeah, you know, there's a great point here too, especially if it's a big problem and you're trying to solve it. And we want to empower you to solve it. But a lot of times it's also important to let your supervisor know, hey, just so you know, if you get a call, here's what's happened with Callum, here's what he's doing. Because a lot of times I get a call and I've never heard of it. Oh, this is the first I've heard of this happening. I'm so sorry. And I'm sure it's happened to everybody. It helps just to keep people in the loop. And so when they call and say, oh, yeah, I heard about that. I know they're working really hard. And this is the last that I heard that this is what was happening. That's an entirely different call than, oh, wow. I'm going to let me look into that and I'll call you back.
Yeah.
So good to think of that teamwork frame. Speaking of teams, just for the assignment from this Lunch and Learn, I need you to visit with your teams and talk about ways that you think you can improve your customer support or your customer service in the aspects that we talked about today. And we'd like to hear your comments. next time as well. Okay, well, anybody else have any comments before we finish off with the videos? We're gonna let Jerry, finish this off today. Well, that was good. Oh, try it again. All right, to the end. Oh, look at that.
Early on, the manufacturing facility was actually in a carport. I had hoses running from the basement all over the place with different temperatures of water, different chemicals, dumped from the back of an old pickup truck into a cow trough, mixing it in the carport. The first large job that we got was because of Claire Steck, our representative in Denver. We had a project in Grand Island, Nebraska. It was a Swift premium meat packing plant. It had been recently purchased by Monfort Meat Packers out of Greeley, Colorado, and they wanted to redo the facility. It was a 37-drum order, and we were elated that we had 37 drums that we could sell on our first big order. Finally, after about a week, we had the drums ready to go. The big problem was this was on a Wednesday, and we had to have them in Grand Island, Nebraska the next Wednesday. We started calling the trucking companies to get somebody to haul it there, but we soon found out that the truckers were on a strike, and there were no trucks available to haul the material there. We were going to lose the project if we didn't have it there, and so the next thought was we need to buy a truck and we need to haul it. On State Street in Pleasant Grove, there is a used truck place called Christensen Truck, and they have just a number of old trucks there that are for sale. Mike Williams was working for me at the time, and Mike and I went up to Pleasant Grove to Christensen Trucking. We walked along this long line of trucks and finally saw this delivery truck. It had been used around Salt Lake City for a number of years. It was a diesel truck. It had a liftgate on the back. It was perfect. And Ron Christensen was there, and I said to Ron, I really need a truck to get this, and I told him what we needed it for. And I said, but the only thing is, I only have $900. You want to get $1,800 for the truck. And so I said, is there any way that I can get $900, take the truck, and then when I get back and I'm paid, I'll come up with the other $900. So Ron said, sure, I'll go ahead and do that for you. So with the deal concluded, Mike jumps in the truck, fires it up, and starts heading down the road. I'm following him in the car, and once we reached 43 miles an hour, we just kept going down the road at 43. I figured out what was going. Why can't you get it out of gear into another one? But I followed him all the way from Pleasant Grove, which is about 15, 20 miles down to South Provo, where a friend of mine had a automobile dealership, and we were going to work on it there and check it out. About a block from reaching the dealership, it starts slowing down, creeping down the road, and finally it just creeps into the yard. Mike jumps out of the truck. I asked him, I said, Mike, a couple of questions for you. First one is, why do you only do it 43 miles an hour? And the second one is, why didn't you slow down before you pull into the yard? Well, the truck won't go faster than 43 miles an hour. Besides that, the clutch is so worn out that it just barely made it into the lot. Well, I knew that we were in real trouble with that, but over the years I've done a lot of work on cars and trucks. And so I asked Mike to get in the car and drive up to Salt Lake because we knew we needed a clutch. This was on a Friday afternoon. Mike went to Salt Lake, and in the meantime, I started taking the truck apart. When he got back, I worked all night and almost a Saturday putting the clutch in the truck and getting it ready to go.
There's more, but wait, there's more.
For the truck, I asked him, I said, Mike, a couple of questions for you. First one is, why are you only doing 43 miles? Well, so Sunday morning, we pull into the carport, load up the 37 pounds of Ashland Ford, and started heading down the road, 43 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Well, that was a long trip to the Grand Island, Nebraska. And it was Tuesday night. I was in Grand Island, get a little bit of sleep. And Wednesday morning, we get up, and it's just pouring rain. And we started heading about 15 miles east to where the packing plant is. And as we're going along, we see the plant on the other side of the freeway. And so instead of going up to the next turnaround, Mike decides he's gonna pull across the freeway, and so he pulls across the freeway, and we get stuck up to the axles in the mud. Well, Mike said, I guess I gotta sit to this problem, so we better go see if we can get somebody to pull us out. He takes off for Grand Island, Nebraska, to call for a towing truck. About an hour and a half later, somebody drops Mike off. He gets in the truck and said, I've called everybody, I can't find anyone who can pull us out. So I said, well, I guess maybe I better go do it. And so I jump out of the truck, I hitch a ride in the rain and go down to Grand Island. And I get on the phone, baseball, go through the phone book. Sure enough, nobody's available to pull us out. But the last person that I call, he says, oh, sure, I can get you out of there. I'll be down in about 20 minutes. Look for me. So I'm at the truck stop looking for this guy, and I expect this great big record to pull a truck out. Here comes this guy in about a 1972 International 3/4 ton pickup with a homemade radio on the back. And he was doing like a minute to pull his truck out. But he said, sure, I can get in there. We go heading out toward where the truck is stuck, but we're smart enough that we go over the overpass and come down to this side. We get up to where the truck is, and we're pulled on the inside lane. And he said, I'm going to winch you out. And so he hooks onto it, and he starts trying to pull, and the only thing that happened was his truck came up almost to tip over. He tries that 3 or 4 times, and he knows that he's not going to get us out that way, so he decides he's going to have to pull across the 2 lanes of Highway 80, and he's going to have to pull us straight out. Mike goes up to the top of the hill and starts sliding cars down. I hit in the truck, he gets in this truck, and he's just burning rubber, smoking, and the truck's throwing mud everywhere.
Like Florida, all over again.
Good gracious, just barely eked our way out of the middle of the median. We got out of the median, and we got him paid. We started taking off for the Walton Meatpackers plant.
This is a great story.
Make your own ending.
Use your own adventure. Gets worse. if that's possible.
Deliver our load, and then we start heading back. But before we get back, we have to fuel up. So we stop at the truck stop at Nebraska. We fill our truck up, and we go to start it again, and the starter doesn't work. We go back to the truck stop and start talking to truckers. Finally, we find a trucker who's willing to give us a shove. He gives us a shove, and we start up, and we go heading back home. Well, now it's snowing, and we're having no heater in the truck. And we get along. Finally, we get into Wyoming. And we're near Cheyenne. Mike's parents live in Cheyenne, and he was raised there, so he wanted to go see his parents for 3 nights. So we go over to their house, and of course, we leave the truck running in the driveway. We can't have it. After our visit, we go out, and as every good trucker does, he funks the tires with his club to make sure that they're running flat tires. Well, of course, it's a flat tire. So we have to go over to the tire shop to get it fixed. We pull up to the tire store, and pull the foot line down next to it where we wanted to change the tire. Started changing the tire with the engine running. But he didn't like the smoke, so he wanted us to shut it down. We told him we couldn't because we couldn't get it started. And he said, well, I'll just give you a shot. But we're through, and we'll get you started again. So he finishes the tire, and we're getting ready to go. And he has one of the young guys who works for him come up with a forklift to give us a shove backwards, but unfortunately didn't put the forks down. force through the radiator. Pouring all over the ground, stuck the truck. Responsibility that you had to be back in Provo for the weekend. And so he took off and flew home. I'm there with the truck, with no radiator in it. I borrowed his dad's car and I drove down to Denver where they have the truck recognized. Spent a whole day going from yard to yard trying to find a radiator to put into this truck. The only problem was the truck had a Dagenham diesel in it, which was the bridge diesel, and the radiators were different because it had American engine in it. So they weren't available. Finally, near the end of the day, I find drove back to Cheyenne, put it in the truck, and then drove home. So that was our first venture out with our large order.
Jerry. So, be patient, be calm, be patient, be level-headed, never give up, right? I think that's a great example of how problem after problem, you just keep finding solutions. It would have been easy for him to pick up the phone and say, hey, we're not gonna make it there on time, I'm sorry. But he didn't. And I think that's the kind of spirit we need to give to our customers is let's meet their need. Let's not give up and always find a solution. So thank you all for your comments today. I love the work that you do. It's great to work with you guys. Thanks for all that you do, and I'll let you guys go. So thank you.